Good afternoon, everybody. We're just going to give maybe 1-2 more minutes for people to come in, for more attendees to join us, and then we will start up the webinar ChargeUp, tips for applying to the accelerator program. As people are coming in, a few housekeeping notes. So the webinar is being recorded, so we will be able to share this afterwards, or if any of your colleagues, team members weren't able to join. We will have a Q&A and a chat, so please post your questions as we go along in the Q&A. If something's relevant, we might pull it up during the webinar, but we'll probably reserve most of the Q&A towards the end, but we'll see how it will go. And so the recording and the presentation will be shared with you after the webinar is done. All right. So I think we've had a lot of attendees join, so let's get started on to learn more about ChargeUp, the battery accelerator powered by New Energy New York, and tips for applying to ChargeUp. So thank you for joining us today. If you joined us last week, this will be a follow-up, a deeper dive into the application process, but we'll also go a little bit over, as a refresher for those of you who might not have been able to join, what ChargeUp is all about. And also why you really should consider ChargeUp and joining the New Energy New York community. So the presenters today who will be presenting together with me are Dr. Damon Deal. He is the Director of Technology Integration at Luminate. Vandana Katoch, Executive Director of the Koffman Southern Tier Incubator, and I'm Olga Petrova, Director of Entrepreneurship Innovation Partnerships at Binghamton University, with our office overseeing the New Energy New York initiative, which you'll get to hear about a little bit more, as this is the initiative that is leading the ChargeUp Battery Accelerator. So we'll provide a brief overview of ChargeUp. We will have a graduate story, not of ChargeUp, but of Luminate, as ChargeUp is modeled after Luminate. We'll go through the application process and then go through some tips and tricks and information for the application, pro tips for that. So to begin with, what is ChargeUp? Why should you be considering ChargeUp? So ChargeUp is going to be the nation's first dedicated accelerator program specifically for battery and energy storage startups across the entire supply chain of battery technology. So we're talking about starting from raw materials, battery chemistries, battery cells, applications for batteries, battery system management, whether it is software, whether it is hardware. So various applications across the board, all the way through to end of life and recycling. And ChargeUp is launching as part of New Energy New York, which has been designated as a federal battery technology hub. And in addition to being powered by New Energy New York, ChargeUp is being brought to you in partnership with the Koffman Southern Tier Incubator, with a lot of the in-person sessions of ChargeUp being delivered at Koffman, as well as in partnership with NextCorps Luminate Accelerator. So Luminate is an internationally recognized optics and photonics accelerator that has supported over 60 funded companies that right now are valued at over $650 million. It is recognized as one of the most effective industry vertical specific accelerator models anywhere in the world. So ChargeUp is being modeled after Luminate, and we're working very closely with the Luminate team to bring the ChargeUp accelerator to you. And also the ChargeUp is funded by the National Science Foundation. All right, so you might be wondering, why should we apply to ChargeUp? Why New Energy New York? Why go to upstate New York? So as I had already mentioned, upstate New York, through the efforts of New Energy New York, has recently been designated as the federal battery technology hub by the White House and the Economic Development Administration. As well as more recently, New Energy New York and the group that is leading ChargeUp has been awarded and National Science Foundation Regional Innovation Engine Award specifically to advance battery technology development. So in addition to ChargeUp, you would be coming into an ecosystem that is the leading innovation hub for battery technologies in the entire nation. So what does that mean? You will be connected to a variety of both business and technical experts. You will also get access to really an unparalleled combination of testing, development, prototyping, scale-up infrastructure, including dry rooms, testing certification centers, battery cell prototyping centers, battery system testing centers, material characterization centers that are really not available anywhere in the US. And we can always follow up with more information. You can see here on this slide the various facilities that are would be available to you. And what's important as part of the New Energy New York group, you would also have access to special programs such as the New Energy New York voucher program, which will provide discounted or subsidized services at these particular facilities. In addition to that, you also will have access to researchers at leading universities, including Binghamton University, Cornell University, as well as Rochester Institute of Technology, all of which have world leaders in the battery space, as well as paid student talent for across various disciplines. You also have access to nation-leading battery workforce development programs, including the Battery Academy, as well as a roster of various business development and technology development grants specifically designed to support battery and energy storage startups. So again, in addition to what you would be getting with through the ChargeUp accelerator. And finally, as a big component of New Energy New York, we have robust networking across the battery supply chain. So connecting you to both the upstream and the downstream potential supply chain partners will be an essential part of the New Energy New York Tech Hub. So that is about the ecosystem that you would be coming in as a ChargeUp company. But what does ChargeUp actually look like? What would the accelerator itself be providing to you? So we're looking at really the goal of making you investor ready in 6 months, through a 6-month curriculum that is going to focus specifically on investor and manufacturing readiness. The curriculum will be hybrid with a large number of online modules, together with monthly in-person sessions in Binghamton, New York, and Rochester, New York, in upstate New York. In addition to the curriculum, you will also get one-on-one mentorship from a large advisory board that will comprise over 12, between 12 and 18 members from experts that from the battery industry, both from business and startup, as well as technical experts from universities, in addition to manufacturing experts, as well as major investors serving on the advisory board, directly advising you. The board will be co-chaired by Nobel laureate inventor of the lithium-ion battery, Stan Whittingham. In addition, at the end of the program, we anticipate, based on the Luminate model, that participating companies will be graduating with a complete due diligence folder and will be ready to pitch to investors within this space. To give you a quick overview, an idea of what the curriculum looks like, some of the modules that will be included in the training curriculum include product roadmap development, sales plan, business model canvas, branding and marketing, business planning, operations, legal, finance, fundraising. There will be a special module around manufacturing accelerator and manufacturing readiness. And we will also be providing battery-specific modules that will focus on such topics as the battery supply chain, the new IRA considerations that have come from the federal government, and the funding opportunities that come with that, as well as manufacturing readiness around battery, as well as certification and safety concerns. In addition to the training and the one-on-one mentoring support that you will get from world-leading experts, as a ChargeUp company, you will get a $25,000 stipend to participate in the program. So this particular funding will be provided as a participant support stipend. So does that mean that you have to spend it on travel to Binghamton and Rochester? No. Can you spend it on travel to Binghamton and Rochester? Yes. So it is a stipend that you get to offset the costs associated with participating in the program. You will also get opportunities for follow-on investment, including up to $100,000 for technical development. And in addition, as part of the program, the hybrid curriculum, you will get opportunities towards the second part of the program to pitch to 20+ vertical relevant investors and to get feedback and potentially get those working relationship with them. And you will get support with investment data room preparations as well. And at this particular point, I don't see any questions that have come in. So at this particular point, before we actually look at what the application process looks like, we wanted to bring in Charbel Risk, who is working with Oculi, a startup that has gone through the Luminate Accelerator. And Oculi is really redefining computer and machine vision with the world's first smart programmable sensor, vision sensor. And we would like to have Charbel tell you about what it was like to go through the Luminate program, and some of the advantages and key strengths that Luminate has provided to him, which we will be translating into ChargeUp, and what it is, what outcomes you do see coming from potential of participating in a program such as this. And with that, I would like to...
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so thank you for the introduction, and I wanted to start by congratulating you on the name of the program. ChargeUp is a very a smart name, because you should be looking beyond batteries, by the way. So very already a very open-minded approach. So I want to give a little bit of my background as well that's relevant in the sense of why, you know, I have become a big fan of the Luminate program, and it didn't take me long to get that level of you know, of enthusiasm about it. It doesn't matter what you have done in life. I guarantee you that founding and starting a startup is more challenging than anything else you've done in your life. In fact, the only job I've done that's more challenging is parenting. Okay, so leaving parenting aside, founding and building a startup is by far very challenging. So going in knowing that, you really want to maximize your chances, because there are just about as many reasons to fail in a startup, right? So go in and maximize your chances of success. And by joining early on, and I'm going to emphasize that point early on a lot, joining a program like Luminate, would make life easier in many ways. It's not going to make you successful. It's not a guaranteed success, but it certainly will save you a lot of the pain that I went through, unnecessarily. Okay, because like I said, you really have to preserve all your time and energy for adding value every day. So if you trip over things that you could have prevented by being part of a program like ChargeUp, then you should do that. It's a no-brainer. Okay. It's a very systematic, well thought out program. Okay. Now, the main struggle for the Luminate team, and may be as well for the ChargeUp team, is to try to build a curriculum that fits the majority of the startups that they accept. Because I came in at a later stage, not from a company status, but just the fact that I had learned the hard way a lot of lessons already, right? So but the program is really set up to give you all the tools, all the knowledge, to minimize all the tripping points. Okay, like I said, they can't eliminate all of them. They can't guarantee your success, but it's a very good program. And this is not the first program we participated in, by the way. So we've tried a couple other programs before, but I felt that Luminate was certainly kind of the best, from multiple angles. And so I can't really emphasize it any more than that. That a lot of efforts goes into the program. They bring in good people. You end up meeting with a lot of good people, and so you build your network as well. And you just have to put on the learning hat. Okay, so that I have a lot of defects, personally, but the one that I continuously remind myself is I don't know everything. I'm not the smartest person in the room, so I'm always in a learning mode. And you have to be in that state, participating in the program. Okay, don't keep your previous biases and experiences to get in the way, because the program is definitely trying to give you good information that has built over the years from experts, filtered through, and they try to customize it as much as possible to your company, right? Unlike other generic startups, accelerators that believe that they have a manual for startup how to be successful. That can only go so far. Having something that is in your swim lane would be a lot more valuable. Well, the other thing that Luminate did well is introduce me and the company to the Rochester area. So I had already made a decision to relocate. So we started out, I developed the technology at Johns Hopkins University. So we initially were parking and trying to build in the Baltimore area. But I realized it's not necessarily the ideal place for a company like us at the stage that we're in, at the resources we need, the ecosystem. So I was already in a kind of a move mode, and Rochester wasn't on the radar, and that's just unfortunate, because the Luminate program introduced me to that region, and it turned out to be a really good place for a company like ours. And then we ended up moving the office there this last month. So we started in 2024 with a big bang, by moving our post to Rochester. And so I don't know about the region there where the ChargeUp program is, but I'm assuming it wasn't random based on the early presentation. There is an ecosystem already that can help you as well. So I hope I've delivered, the mail for this meeting and presentation. I'm happy. I won't be able to stick around for the whole hour, but if there's any quick questions for me right now, I'm happy to answer.
Right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your input and sharing your experience. I want to very quickly, so I think we had a couple of questions come in the chat. Some of those have been answered by text. Just want to answer the one that we have, the in-person commitment for selected companies during the 6-month program. So there will be each week from April through September, 1 week, which is the work week, about 5 days, 4 to 5 days that are in person. That will be mostly in Binghamton, with at least 1 week in Rochester as well. All right, and with that, I will hand it over to Bandana to talk about applying to ChargeUp.
Thank you, Olga. Good afternoon, everyone. So let's start with the perspective of how to apply for ChargeUp. So we have hosted the application in a platform, F6S. It's a global platform, particularly used by a lot of organizations like us who support founders with various resources. I have also pasted the link, which you see on your oh, it's not getting posted. We'll do it in a minute. The link for the application. The process to select companies is going to be competitive. We have limited spots in the program, and depending upon the applicant pool, we'll decide how many spots will be opening for this inaugural cohort of this program. The program will start mid-April, April 15th. And just as a reminder, the deadline for the application is exactly 2 weeks from now on February 23rd. Next slide, please. So what we are really looking for is the entire gamut of battery technologies that cover the supply chain in the battery systems, from critical material technologies to various chemistries or components of batteries, different management systems for batteries, the electronics, the applications that are valid for various battery technologies, definitely on battery safety, as well as end-of-life cycle recycling for the batteries. Next slide, please. So there are a few requirements for the candidates which we would be considering as we start the selection process. One, the company must be developing a battery-related innovation. So definitely, if you have any technology which is on the ancillaries of battery supply chain, which I just mentioned in the previous slide, please send us an email. Please reach out so that we could address the question related to what kind of innovation you have. But this program currently is limited to battery-related innovation. We are looking for companies that have a technology that is proven at least at a lab scale, and companies which have about two full-time employees, with a commitment that a C-level member of the company is able to join the program, both the virtual session as well as in-person session, which Olga mentioned, once a month in different cities. So most of those in-person sessions will be in our various cities in the upstate New York, Binghamton, Albany, and Rochester. The launch of the program in the week of April 15th will be in Binghamton, New York. Next slide, please. So what does application process include? The first thing is, to apply on F6S. When you go on that platform, they will ask you to create a profile. That profile requires you to, answer a few questions related to your company, your organization structure, and your technology. This is important because, as I said, F6S hosts various other programs as well. So this allows them to provide you with the right opportunities for various programs. So create your profile on that platform. It will ask you questions related to problem, your technology. And then in the application, we would also like to know, what are you looking for from our program? This will help us to understand our program, the way it is designed, would meet your expectations or not. There is a requirement for a short video. Doesn't have to be very professional. You don't have to find a professional videographer for that video. As long as in that video you could show us your story, the demonstration of your technology, that is good enough for us. Next slide, please. So as a preparation material for your application, we have included about 5 sections in the application. Information about your company, an overview, what kind of funding you've had, grants, any kind of investor raises or private investor raises, what has been your 12-month revenue if you are a revenue generating company, or if you're pre-revenue, what are you projecting, your team, their roles, their expertise, the customer segments in the markets, especially your competitors, and the competitive advantage you have to create the differentiator with other technologies, different kind of tractions, description about your technology. And in the last section, we have asked to kind of better understand, is your company already related to New York ecosystem? If yes, how are you engaged with New York ecosystem, the upstate New York? What are the program requirements? And then the company video. Next slide, please. The timeline of the program. So currently the applications are open. They're open for next 2 weeks. The deadline for the application is February 23rd. We'll take few weeks after the deadline to do the selection of the finalist for the cohort, and then the program will begin on April 15th. And it's a 6-month program, so we'll go until fall 2024, towards the end of September. Next slide, please. And now I would like to welcome the fourth speaker of the presentation, Dr. Damon Deal.
Hello, so I am Damon. I am with the Luminate Startup Accelerator. As I said before, the Binghamton Startup Accelerator is going to be to follow the structure that we have in terms of timeline and curriculum that we're running parallel. And I am going to give you some advice on, we've been running for 6 years. So my advice on what it takes to do a really outstanding application for Startup Accelerator in general, but for one of these accelerators that is focused on a technology hub. And the first thing, you always need to think about why somebody should care. And so be sure to articulate and really think hard about what is the problem you're trying to solve and why should the ChargeUp accelerator care about it. And therefore think about what the ChargeUp accelerator is. And we are it's a charge accelerator that is focused on battery and energy storage. So as you are putting together your application, remember that that is what they're looking for. We get some very strange applications in Luminate. So make sure that what you're doing aligns with what ChargeUp is doing. And also, when you're doing your application, remember to think about how the funding behind ChargeUp is operated. Look up the New Energy New York program and see what is its purpose. Look up the Koffman Southern Tier Incubator and what is its purpose. And as you're putting your application together, think about how is it that what you are doing is going to apply to the underlying reason that the Startup Accelerator exists. And rolling back a point, in addition to this, why your program is why your product and program is relevant and important, then be able to articulate who your target market and your customers are, be able to articulate who it is that cares about what you're doing. And you can't go everywhere at once is the other point that we're trying to make there in the center of that slide. Okay, you can go on to the next one, please. And so these are my points on things that you do not want to forget how to while you're putting your proposal together. And so this is a proposal about batteries and about battery supply chain. So as you are writing your proposal, your application, make sure that you're talking about how your product is going to fit into that line. You can fit in all sorts of places in that line, but articulate where it is that you are going to fit. And then you need to articulate what it is that you are doing that differentiates you from the competition, either that you are doing something that is fundamentally different, that you're doing something that is fundamentally better performance, that you're doing something that is fundamentally more cost efficient. There are lots of ways that you can differentiate yourself as a product. And you want to articulate that because that's how this is a business accelerator. And so you need to be making a case that you are going to stand out from competition, that you are going to be the best business out there. And the third point here is an interesting one because you're going to be applying to an accelerator that is in a tech hub, and you want to become wired into that. You want to be able to take advantage of all of the resources that are there. So there are two aspects of being connected in. One is, what is it that you want to get out of the ChargeUp program? And then also thinking, what is it that you can do to be an impact in that, within that hub? Are you going to be able to work with local contractors? What is it that's going to make you something that people will want to work with in work with in the future? You can go on to the next one. Oh, getting into my advice on the overall content. What we have talked about so far is what makes the application strong in terms of uh, the relevance, but as far as like the actual bits and pieces of the application, one thing is that you want to keep that video concise. As Banana said, it does not need to be an Emmy Award, Academy Award video, but it needs to be able to express this is your ability to put your own face on something. And so in that, articulate why your product is important, explain who your team is. If you can give some idea um, of like if you can show your product in action, that's phenomenal. But you need to keep it concise. These need to be about 3 minutes long. It's an elevator pitch with the advantage that you get to control what people see. And when you are writing the answers to the questions, there is a balance there. You want to write a complete answer to the question, but you also need it to be concise. The reviewers for applications like this really have to make a decision over the course of, say, 15 minutes, given the number of applications that can come in for this. So you want somebody to be able to skim through your application and immediately pull out all of the most important information, and then go back and see things that that require more attention. Don't leave blanks. I have seen applications frequently that are missing important information or include like 2 words telling me to look somewhere else. I am looking for some information in that section. It's good. You can have repetition, but if I'm asking for something in a section, make sure that I've got that information at the point where I'm looking for that question when I'm skimming through your application. A tip with F6S is that if you put in that founder section, include anybody that be kind of broad in what you consider to be the founders, because that is the section where you can put links in for LinkedIn, and that is the way that we're able to look at the equivalent of somebody's resume. And it's harder to follow that through elsewhere in the application because it doesn't have hyperlinks. So pro tip is to put the most important people inside of that founder section. When you are putting this together, an aspect of being concise is legibility. And in this case, there isn't a huge amount of formatting that you can do with an F6S. So arrange things into bullet points instead of like this wall of text. If you can make some specific points, that helps a lot. A paragraph that is 10 sentences long is going to be hard for somebody to pull their way through. And also proofread. No one throws out an application because you have misspelled a word, but if somebody can't understand what you're saying, that's the importance of proofreading, is making sure as you're going through that what you have written is what you meant. Go on to the next one. And so these are my final tips, just like the slide says. And so It is not required that you have grants or contracts or revenue or endorsements. However, if you have won a grant, then be sure to mention that. If you have a contract of some significance, then be sure to mention that. If you've got revenue as an early stage business, that's really good. That always shines out. And F6S doesn't have a big section for endorsements. They're not required. But if there's something really significant, you can stitch some things together into a single PDF. People are not going to spend an enormous amount of time reading that. It's not required. But if there's something that really stands out for you that emphasizes your strengths, then put that in. And finally, things that are not in F6S is that we are going to go and look at your website. We are going to look at your LinkedIn profile. You don't, it doesn't have to be anything enormous or impressive, but if put the most current information on your website and with your LinkedIn, that's how we look at essentially your resume. So the more up to date both of those things are, the better. And again, none of the things on here are requirements. They're just ways that you can make yourself stand out a bit. And I think that covers everything I want to say.
Right. Thank you, Damon. So that brings us to the conclusion of the presentation. You can visit the ChargeUp website, look at the application in F6S, and we will be glad to take questions now. We do have two questions that are somewhat related. One of them was, should we count federal state grant funding as revenue? And then the other one was, for those of us who are entirely publicly funded, no private, non-dilutive, all non-dilutive to date, how do you want us to declare our numbers in terms of money raised to date? Do we count as seed stage? So for both of them, the reason why I'm saying is related, there's revenue, but there is a separate section where you can talk about your raises as well as your grants. So you will be able to show if you've had non-dilutive, if it's SBIRs, enumerate those so we know. So it's not just, hey, here's a pile of money that we got in SBIRs. Go through, here's one from DOE, here's one from DOD, this is the amounts. Maybe I might throw this to Damon. So if you do have any SBIRs that are not grants, but contracts, any suggestions for how to treat those in terms of revenue or not? Do you make any distinctions on those?
I wouldn't put them as revenue. I think that it's better to put the SBIR and STTRs all together. That's a fuzzy area. I know that's a fuzzy area, but I don't put those as revenue when I'm writing these things up or when I'm reading them. It's easier to look at. Government gave me this money. People gave me this money. That's how I think about those.
Thanks. And then in terms of if you have all non-dilutive, yes, your pre-seed, seed, depending on how much. All right. Then we have one, can you have graphics inserted into the application? I will also throw this to Damon because this is our first time with F6S.
Yeah. So it depends a little bit about it set up, but you get to put in a pitch deck, right? And so graphic information, put together that into a pitch deck. And so that's the advice there.
All right. Thank you. Any additional? Target valuation, can this be based on target market size? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. So don't overstate a valuation, right? If you have a valuation that's based on a most recent investment, then that's what you want to put in there. Because if you overinflate it, actually, it can make it, not that ChargeUp New York is investing in you, they're doing a non-equity amount of funding, but you are going to get in front of other investors over the course of the program. And so that can be actually a little bit of a scareaway point if you have an inflated valuation. So we are looking for early stage companies, right? Early stage companies have low valuations. So that is okay. Don't base it on your wildest fantasies. Base it on the most recent data that you have.
All right, I think we currently don't have any more questions.
I have a note from one of my peers about white papers and journal publications. And there isn't a place in there to do attachments. And we don't really have time to read something deeply, but that that can be interesting. So if you have there's I haven't seen the way this is constructed, and apologies for that. I should have read it, but I think there's some area for intellectual property, and so your publications can kind of go in there if there's a section for IP. It's not required though.
All right. Yes, will this webinar be posted online later? So we will be sharing this. Yes, it will be made available. And then we have a question about the evaluation criteria. So that is currently being finalized, and but you will be evaluated in terms of the on criteria, including of course your technology stage of development, the funding that's been raised to date, the team, the strength of the team, and maybe Bandana, would you like to add anything else?
No, I think that covers it. Funding, team, and technology levels, readiness levels.
I think we have one question that only place to list grants is investors and equity holders. I believe we do have one with the grants. Unfortunately, cannot access this the application right now.
I have the access, so I can actually.
But if we can enable that, but if it's currently not there, if you are submitting a pitch deck, supplementary materials, you can also attach a sheet that does list those. And that supplementary upload that you will have will give you an opportunity to highlight anything that you think might not necessarily, that you think is relevant, that might not necessarily be reflected in the entire application. And okay, we do have a question, Bandana, that has come in about the disbursement of the 25,000 stipend. I believe it is going month to month.
Month to month.
So it is 5,000 increment.
5,000 each month, 25,000 spread across the 6 months.
I think we did have some questions before in terms of what that in-person commitment, and we did post some of the dates where there is the committed dates that you do have to be available to come to Binghamton and or Rochester. So the April dates, those are in Binghamton, New York. The May dates are in Rochester. June and August will be in Binghamton, New York. And with the September for the closing, we're looking to finalize those. And since there was the question about how the stipend will be dispersed, again, wanted to reiterate that the stipend is, while we realize that we appreciated their costs associated with coming to upstate New York travel, so that stipend can absolutely be used to offset those costs, but it is a participant support stipend going to you as individuals, so you can use that for other purposes. And also to reiterate with those, we had questions that were answered in the chat. This is non-dilutive. We do not take equity with either the 25 or that additional 100K that would come as a later opportunity for technical assistance.
I also see that someone asked a question about the New York registered, and just to be also clear that no, you do not have to be registered in New York. And I guess one thing I will say is that this program right now is requires that a company be in the US, but the ambitions are that this is going to become a global. This is the first year of the program. It's a little bit focused right now. Luminate is an international program.
Okay, so we do have a question about the technical assistance, what types of services. So we are talking about prototyping, scale up, testing, certification, services that are specifically associated with advancing the TRL of your respective technologies. It's not in-kind services, but it is a reimbursement of services, yes. So let's say examples, if you do need to do some kind of UL certifications, or let's say you do need to do cycle testing or do a batch of battery cell prototyping, those are the types of things that the technical assistance will support. But I do have to say that as part, again, if you are selected for the program as part of the New Energy New York ecosystem, there will be later this year grants that are specifically launching for business development and technical development grants that will be available to selected companies to apply for. It does not have to be Intertech. We have a question about, does it have to be Intertech? It does not have to be Intertech. And just also wanted to reiterate some of the things that have listed in the beginning when talking about New Energy New York and coming into this upstate New York ecosystem. As participants in the program, you will be directly connected and linked to all of those resources, whether as necessary, whether it is other supply chain companies, trade organizations like New York Best, those opportunities to get paid student interns from regional universities. All of that will be linked to you, will be provided to you as part of the program. I have an interesting question. There are opportunities for other universities outside of New York to become a part of the Tech Hub or partner with New Energy New York in the future. Absolutely. That's probably, you should reach out separately to New Energy New York. It goes a little bit outside of the scope of course, ChargeUp as the accelerator. Well, New Energy New York, as the name suggests, is very much focused on building out that ecosystem in upstate New York and New York State as a whole. We are dedicated to really driving innovation, manufacturing in the battery space for the entire country, for the industry, for the entire country. So yes, we're absolutely open to partnerships. And no, Carrie, if you can do the general NENY address for that, if it is with NENY in the chat, if you wanted to connect about that. Yes, so you should not put your grants in investors and equity holders. We will double check about the grant as a separate question, but if you do not find it, please submit that as supplementary material within your deck as a separate thing. We will double check that. We do have a question, how many startups will be shortlisted for the program? So we are looking, depending on number of applications, there will be shortlists. It really depends, and I might defer to Damon as well, 10 to 20, but at the very end, the selection will be 3 or 4 companies this particular year. It is our first year running the program, so we are doing a smaller cohort to kick things off, and the expectation is to grow to 6 to 8 companies next year as a cohort.
Yeah, I will just say that it's a little bit of a complicated question right now. This is the pilot for this one. Luminate has a structure that it goes through, and I'm actually sort of reticent to share that because I don't know the structure that we're going to end up with for a startup. And also, a lot of it is internal. So the external part is the number of companies that are accepted. And there will be a number of companies that pitch internally, but some of that information is actually internal information. But you will definitely know if you are asked to give a pitch.
And yes, to reiterate, yes, it is a smaller cohort this year
Yeah.
through 4, but again, the expectation is to scale it next year as well. So we'll be working very closely with the Luminate team on deploying this curriculum and working with the first.
Yeah, and I guess that's something I can say is that Luminate scale is that Luminate, we have 10 companies every year. And so, and we also have 2 companies that are in this follow-up position. The way that ChargeUp is going to evolve depends, but that's the scale of Luminate right now.
I think I also wanted to bring up, yes, it is a smaller cohort for this first year, but as part of this particular cohort and the in-person weeks in Binghamton, you will be participating in events such as the New York Best Annual Capture the Energy conference in May, which brings together battery and energy storage industry, both upstream, downstream, across the entire supply chain from across the state as well as from outside of the state. So it's not that you're going to be limited to a smaller cohort and that's only your team. You will be exposed to a lot of startups, larger companies, and other relevant stakeholders in this space in New York and outside of New York as well as part of this program.
Yeah, also with the Luminate startups, we don't want you to be lonely down here in Binghamton. So the programs are running parallel. So we will have interactions between the Luminate Startup Accelerator participants and the ones in Binghamton.
All right, so we have a question, how broadly are batteries defined for this program? Is it lithium focused? Is it lithium related, sodium, potassium, calcium, etc.? Or is it a tech that can best leverage the available facilities and in-house technical expertise? At times the press has referred to pumped hydropower as watery battery. Okay, so that is actually a very, very good question. So we are chemistry agnostic. So we are not only, yes, Stan Whittingham is co-chairing the board. Yes, we have the father of the lithium-ion battery working with us on this, but no, it's not only lithium. As both Bandana and I had mentioned, first of all, we're looking across the entire battery supply chain. So if you are working with specific applications, grid storage, electrification of various transportation sectors, and it is dealing with integration of the batteries, that is all open. If you're working with extraction of critical materials that are necessary for batteries of today or batteries of the future, absolutely. And yes, we're chemistry agnostic, sodium, sulfur, zinc, bring them on. When it gets into additional energy storage, such as fuel cells, thermal batteries. I see where the question is going. Yes, we are trying at this particular point, the focus is on keeping it to more traditional electrochemical energy storage. So if you're going outside of that for battery types, outside of electrochemical, we would say that at this point, those are going to be deprioritized in the application process. I hope
I found
that.
something interesting there in the center actually is best leverage the average facilities and in-house technical expertise. Pro tip when you're applying, right? If you can identify some resources within a technology hub, then that you would use, then definitely put that in there. The reason that Luminate chose Binghamton as the city we would work with as a startup accelerator is we looked at all of the available resources here. And so you should look at all the available resources too when you're applying.
And I think that's a very good point because absolutely, if we have specific infrastructure that can support your technology, absolutely highlight that. That can be a great value add, but that is not to say, again, if you're working on something that's a little bit outside certain chemistries that haven't been represented as well in the regional universities by the regional tech experts, that does not mean you should not be applying. And we're also bringing part of the advisory board. We are bringing experts from outside of the region. So you will have those resources as well.
Yeah, bringing in new technology is also encouraged.
Yes. As a lot of our corporate partners are saying, we need lithium today. We need lithium 2, 3 years, 4 years from now. That's what we're planning, but we need something else later down the road. We need to diversify. All right, we have another question. And if one of our employees is New York State based, can the second employee who participate in the program be a different person session? In other words, can we have several employees rotate through? So first of all, you don't have to be New York State based right now, because it's a National Science Foundation program. You do have to be, the company does have to be US based and have a US presence. So we have to do that. And if you have any questions about that, absolutely email us separately. So, but you don't have to be based in New York State. Having said that, in terms of rotating employees across throughout the program, we do recommend that it is the same individuals to get the continued benefit, but I will also defer to Damon as you've had experience with this.
Sure. We definitely have companies, it needs to be somebody who is in a leadership position. That's how you're going to be benefiting from our program. But we have seen that there is a benefit in some rotation between the CEO and the COO, between the executive and the operations. And so you can look at what is going to be covered during the residency week. And also because people like doing the on-site visits, you'll discover that frequently more than one person comes at a time. That is up to you. But definitely we see the CEO and COO, and sometimes the CTO comes in for some significant amount of time because it is a technology hub.
All right. So we are almost at time. We've got 2 minutes left. Last chance for questions. Last chance. Going once, going twice. All right. I think with that, really thank you for joining us. This has been recorded and will be shared with you. So you can, if anything, you can share it also with your colleagues, with your team members, and feel free to reach out. So check out the ChargeUp webpage. Let us know, email us if there are any issues with the F6S. We will double check and give additional guidance. And don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any additional follow-up questions or wanted to talk about the program. So thank you so much for joining us again. And thank you, Damon, Vandana, and Charbel. And thank you, Carrie and Shannon, behind the scenes for running the webinar.